the Hormuz closure and the Gulf crisis has gone beyond geopolitical impact. It has disrupted the global energy supply chains. It has also contributed to fuel inflation and overall inflation. The countries are struggling to overcome and cope up with the challenge. A country like Bhutan, which has very small countries, always try to balance different trade-offs of economic growth, are really into the ripple of effect of this global economic crisis. And we would like to know how Bhutan is managing this particular crisis. I have with me Mr. Sonam Dhanduk, the Senior Economic Officer with Asian Development Bank. He is the man who is professionally required to monitor the Bhutanese economy constantly. And I know his hand is always on the pulse of Bhutanese economy. And Mr. Sonam, I would like to know from you that how government of Bhutan has responded to this crisis.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Sanjeev. It's my pleasure to be on your podcast. Yes, the Middle East crisis has impacted Bhutan quite a bit. The full scale of its impact is yet to be known.
Yeah.
But the first order effect is through, as you know, the increased fuel prices.
Yeah.
For example, the fuel price in April went up. The petrol prices actually went up 2 times. So did the diesel price.
Yeah.
So the government in March came up with a framework called Bhutan Fuel Price Smoothing Framework. So under the framework, the purpose was primarily to price control of the fuels. So government came in with a fiscal measure to subsidize the fuel prices. So what happened was the war premium, the premium that the price increased because of the war. So government actually absorbed
The shock.
so that absorbed the shock that it could cushion the consumers and the economy. That's number one. That's number two is the government did some fiscal reallocation of 1 billion neutral to finance to provide the fiscal support, fuel support. So these are the immediate measures that the government did, and the government also introduced non-fiscal measures like requiring the civil servants to walk if you're within a distance of 1 hour from your office.
That's very unique.
Requested the civil servants and people in general to avoid unnecessary travel. So these are some of the immediate measure that the government has taken. So it's a price control combined with the stock management.
Is there any rationing on the use of petrol and diesel?
Not as far as I know for now. What we have been hearing is that there's no issue with the quantity of supply. The problem is with the price only. So for now, there's no ration there's no quota per se that a person can use.
And have they have enough fuel supply storage?
Well,
I don't know whether it's
the buffer stock is a big issue. That's one of the recommendations that I would personally give for future, that the buffer stock needs to be increased.
Yeah, basically looking at this part and that how Bhutan has used subsidies and to actually support consumers, and especially the high subsidy on diesel as such, must be impacting government budget significantly. Now, this issue is that how the government is trying to negotiate the short-term objectives with the long-term interests of the economy. How they are managing this trade-off.
Well, in the immediate term, the options are limited. So there's not so much that we can do because, as you know, Bhutan totally depends on imported fossil fuel.
Yeah.
And the primary mode of transport is land. So there's not much that the government can do. But going forward, if the crisis persists, and the fuel price remains elevated, so there are strategic moves that the government may need to take. The fiscal measures may need to be prioritized to the most needy ones. And even going beyond, there has to be a strategic shift in terms of moving away from the fossil fuel to maybe optimizing the renewable energy.
Yeah.
Say, for example, even for the purposes of cooking, and at the individual household level. So that's in a longer term, but that's the strategic move that needs to happen, because knowing that the global crises are now on an increased frequency. So then, like we said earlier, the buffer stock needs to be relooked.
Yeah.
Do we have enough storage to buffer stocks? What happens when we have enough adequate buffer stock is that the prices can be absorbed. We can use the older stocks and then refit it with the newer ones, so that the prices can be actually absorbed by the government using the buffer stocks. So these are some of the longer term strategic thinking that the government may need to take.
Looking at the things now, what's happening, there are multiple channels of transmission to the economy of this particular crisis. How you project the growth scenarios in the future? There's a need for readjustment in the projected growth rates, trade deficit over the period of time?
Well, the Asian Development Outlook was out on the 10th of April.
Okay.
Bhutan is projected to grow by about 6.9% in 2026.
Okay.
So this was based on what we'll call early stabilization assumption.
Okay.
So we assumed that the war and the issue in the Middle East is transitory in nature. Mm-hmm. So the prices, even though higher, the gasoline prices, even though higher, will come down shortly and rapidly and stabilize at the baseline scenario of $72 on average.
Okay.
But this is now turning out to be very optimistic. Okay. So hence, the development in the recent months is proving that it's not going to settle at $72 a barrel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just about 150 maybe.
Right now, the Brent crude is around 101, 102. Yesterday, it was 114. So the scenario that we have taken was quite optimistic. So we need to go back and recalibrate our growth. Obviously, if the worst scenario happens, which is like $120 to $130 a barrel on average, the economic impact is going to be close to 2 percentage points.
What we that's big.
That's big. Yeah. The inflation can be as high as 3 percentage points higher.
Okay.
So it can be to the north of 6% from right now 3.5. So these are the impact. Now there are second tier impacts, like delayed consumption, tourist consumption. So people don't want to come to Bhutan because the global situation is not improving. The fuel prices, the jet fuel prices are going up. It has. I just read the news that it's 3 times higher than the baseline scenario. But there is a catch in that. People are avoiding long distance travel because the cost of flights have gone up.
Yeah.
Now, what the tourists are doing is they are now traveling within the region. So it's a good thing, maybe, because Bhutan always sees higher number of tourists from India. So maybe people who were bound to Europe will now consider Bhutan as one of their tourist destinations.
Now, moving away from very macro perspective of this crisis towards micro level adjustment that households make, how do you see how Bhutanese households are negotiating with the high inflation in this particular crisis? Is there any impact on them and how they are negotiating with it?
Well, frankly, it remains to be seen as yet, because the price numbers are, the official price numbers are only till March. So we cannot say much. Price is very sticky, as you and me understand. Yeah. So March prices are higher, I would say. The year-on-year average inflation growth is 5.8%.
Okay.
Average March end. But is it only due to the Middle East crisis? uncertain because government recently has taken a lot of fiscal reforms.
Yeah.
So it needs to be weighed and seen, where the price pressure is actually coming from. But if the Middle East crisis prolongs, the price effect is going to be felt in the medium term. We will see
Over the next
the lagged
5,
increase
6
in
months, yeah.
5-6 months. So for now, it's uncertain as yet, but we'll have to wait and see how it affects how the crisis actually affects the price input.
Thank you, Sulim, for this discussion. I think you have provided interesting information and valid information which helps us to understand how Bhutan is coping up with the crisis and what challenges would lie ahead. Thank you very much for your sharing knowledge with us.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.